Are you genetically lazy?
What did you do?
Well...
1, 2, 3.
So I want 3 reasons.
Just checking. Some people say, sixth formers go, like, in what way do you mean successful? You know. Let me tell you the basic truth. We all want to be successful. Now, for us, an awful lot of us, what I would call school is what I call all check-in, no holiday. And people go, what do you mean? Well, have you ever noticed how, when you go to an airport, how well-behaved people are? There's a queue about half a mile long. What do they all do? They all stand there. You get to the counter, what happens? Some person says, who packed your bag? Is there anything in it should be there? They take your bag off you, throw it on a carousel, see it's security, where a stranger touches you inappropriately. Yeah, fire. Why? Because 6 months ago in a brochure you're seeing 2 tiny photographs of this wonderful holiday resort, and all you think about is holiday, holiday, holiday. If I sent you to an airport right now and said, go to Gatwick, join queue number 36 and just stand there, and you go, well, where am I going? Well, don't worry about that. Just join the queue and stand there. After about 10 minutes, you'll be going, Tom, I'm bored. You just stay there. Yeah, but Tom, I want to go to the toilet. Stay in the queue. Eventually you go, oh, stuff this, I'm off. And you would leave. Now, that's how school is for many people.
You mentioned your Ofsted. That was one of the things that the report identified was inconsistencies,
that's
wasn't
correct,
it? And that's
yes,
very
yes.
clear from the evidence that there are inconsistencies between the departments in terms of outcomes for pupils. Yes?
If I have a group that is lively and engaged and working well together and bouncing ideas off each other, sometimes that works best when they have chosen their own seating plan, or rather that results from them having chosen their own seating plan and they're sitting amongst their friendship groups, which is fine by me.
But that's your seating plan, isn't it? You decided that this group will work best if they choose where they sit.
I suppose, yes, what you're saying is that we should all say, right, that's where you're sitting, and it stays the same, and all teachers have to approach it in the same way, and I think that's...
Isn't the important point, Phil, that if you say that's where you're sitting, etc., then the pupils should be able to do that without argument because they know that's acceptable. Yeah. It's not the same as having to do the same all the time. That's what I'm saying.
So, Tim, what were you?
Well, it seemed to be having a debate about a one-size-fits-all approach and slightly more flexible approach. But perhaps when we're coming up with these ideas, if we format it as a series of questions that you ask yourself, that might allow for, you know, have you thought about seating?
OK. Is that going to be strong enough? I mean, what if they say no? It's not... You see, I think you're an experienced, strong teacher who is able to make judgments about how to work with the class best and what will make the most progress. Not everybody is.
So instead of considered, have you decided your seating plan?
I think that's better, actually. I mean, I suppose what I'm thinking is that the pupils spend most of their time in lessons. That's the most important thing that we do as teachers in the school. And the most powerful thing I found as a head in raising the bar in a school was to have a highly consistent level of the best practice. And as soon as the differences, the in-school variation was reduced, then everybody's game was up.
For me, Negative Norman says, Tom, you're a fraud, a cheat and a liar, and today they're going to find you out. Pete says, go on, my son, go on, I dare you, I dare you. Who do you think I listen to more these days? Yes, Pete. Norman gets a good tap, shut up. And the more you listen to Pete, the better it gets. Now, there's a word you have to associate with Pete. The word is yes. So what I'll do is this time, is we'll do the same thing again, the clap, but this time I want you to shout the word yes, powerful enough that I am blown back through that screen, OK? So, ready? Feet flat floor. Shoulders back. Ready? 1, 2, 3. My desire is to be a catalyst, just to sort of up the ante and generate a conversation in the school which may not be there before, which hopefully is picked up in conversations with tutors, with parents, with the teachers who are in there. And if a kid is asking a teacher, you know, sir, miss, are you doing what makes you feel successful, then that can be as powerful as the other way around.
I'm just not really used to that sort of way of teaching and that approach. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, it's quite uplifting, quite sort of gives you a bit of a thrill.
Also, it's another way of looking at it because you never really think about it before and you don't think about it until someone asks you.
It is mixed.
Over an hour later, the workshop's finally generating some ideas.
Anything else that we want to add to these areas that we've identified?
I feel at the moment we've got a bit of a hole in the middle.
Yes, we have, haven't we? We've sat them down, we've engaged them, we've got very enthusiastic about what it is we're doing, and then we've lurched straight through to the plenary. But in the middle, I think this is, you know, we've got a reminder that we all talk too much. So I think this business on talk, as part of deepening understanding, is crucial. And isn't that the main part of the lesson?
Heather wants her blueprint for a successful lesson to be taken forward by senior staff.
My hope is that the deputy head will take this on as part of his work with staff, either through, he's in charge of professional development, so either as part of a professional development day or other activities. But I think if he takes it on and if he is committed to having a one side of A4 that identifies the best practices and then establishes how this becomes a live document that they use and they refer to through all of their lesson planning and their training and their lesson observations, then I think it will be very effective because they've got some very good practice to draw on.
Tom and Heather's final day at the Hurst.
So, there's an envelope for you.
Heather's revisiting English, where they've been looking at speaking and listening.
When you like speaking or something,
two bad things would be like when you're like looking up in the air and you don't know what you're talking about.
Daydreaming, don't know what you're talking about.
This Year 7 lesson's a classic example of the kind of good practice she wants spread throughout the school. Tim's using video clips from a Year 8 discussion.
I sort of agree and I disagree because it...
Look at this chap here. Do you look like he's listening? I don't think so. Right, that's just a taste. It goes on quite a lot longer. They were able to keep up that discussion for about half an hour, believe it or not. So just looking at that, excellent work, and I really hope in a year's time you'll be approaching that or doing as well. What else can we add to our list of features of good discussions then? Have a think. Yes, Jen, OK.
They don't put the person's name who they agreed with at the beginning.
Right, brilliant. OK, did you spot that, the rest of you? I agree with Darian. I disagree with Darian. I agree with Nathan. So what they were doing was joining the conversation together.
Do you think there is the potential at the Hurst School to share that sort of practice across other subjects so that it does become more teachers part of their repertoire of teaching?
I don't at the moment see another avenue in which it could be, a way in which it could be disseminated across departments on a larger scale.
Right.
Purely because it doesn't obviously fit in with major chunks of the school development plan.
Right.
We've got some very major changes going on to do with curriculum, to do with the pastoral system.
OK.
I suspect if I went to Malcolm and said, I want to do
Yes.
whole school inset on speaking and listening, he'd say, OK, but put it on the back burner.
OK. The pace of change is what is disappointing here, isn't it? That they don't seem to feel a real sense of urgency. I mean, if they'd wanted to change the curriculum, they could have done it. You know, there's nothing magic about September, is there? You know, you can do things before a 6-week summer holiday. I mean, this school ought to be absolutely cooking on gas, shouldn't it?
Heather and Tom report back to the head and his deputy. First, lazy boys.
Some of them will probably come from quite secure backgrounds. They're secure, possibly economically, secure emotionally, and how, in some senses, that can be a degree of complacency because there's no real kind of fight. And if school becomes part of that, it can become a slightly mellow package, you know. And as I say, sometimes you get too mellow, you start to ferment. I think Woody Allen said that, not me. But that's why I can attend. You know, that's why I don't like when people say I'm just chilling out. I worry that they're going to eventually chill out and, you know, drop dead. That possibly in school, you know, you need that bit of challenge, which is possibly about making it slightly less secure. You know.
I wanted to ask you about changes that you're planning, because the school is moving forward, things are changing, and Tim in particular, because I was trying to push him on extending the work that he was doing on literacy beyond the English department, because I just was, you know, it was an impressive lesson and it shouldn't just stay there. And he was saying, oh, well, there's a lot going on in the schools, a number of changes being introduced in September, and I just wondered what they...
Okay, well, some of them are for most are for September 09, actually, because one of the notions is trying to develop some teacher expertise at a bit deeper level, hence the after-school sessions next year.
Right, so that's...
So we're looking at changing to vertical mentoring, having more of a coaching model in tutor time, which matches what you've been coming up with maybe a different timetable day structure, maybe, where we can allows us a bit longer to have some bit more depth.
Yeah, I think what we're concerned to do is to try and... It's that word challenge, isn't it? And there's the independent learning side of it.
Yes.
And one of the things we feel quite strongly, I think, is that the pupils don't get enough time during a typical lesson to be able to show what they can do. They can't actually work through to a conclusion. And therefore, I mean, we're already starting to put the timetable into much longer slots. So a lot of more 50 lessons go to 100-minute lessons where you get 2 back-to-back, for example. And that's happened quite to a large extent throughout the upper school. Probably possibly even more so next year. I'm not sure.
So you've already assessed what difference that makes in terms...
We haven't. We would have done by the end of the year. Because, of course, we're only halfway through so far. To actually look at the differences between those who've got these longer time slots, of course.
The input that we've had from yourselves has come at the right time, because we have quite naturally been doing 2 things this year. We've been kind of inwardly looking at ourselves following a satisfactory officer that we knew could be better.
Yes.
And we still think probably should have been better.
Yeah.
And also quite naturally looking at relaunching the school as you do every 3, 4, 5, 6 years. I was interested to know about your link into where we are with staff professional learning and the notion of needing of spreading that across a wider group of staff and being more consistent. I think we're doing that gradually anyway, and I think we've got more staff, more than we've ever had, who are ready for that. Because there's also a readiness factor, isn't there? You can do that as much as you like to, but if the readiness isn't there, and that kicks in. And I think we're already designing structures that are going to allow us to do that better, possibly than we've done in the past.
The synergy between, you know, what we discovered and what they are thinking of doing, I hope that what we've done will act as a catalyst.
I think my only concern or reservation would be about the pace of change, and that, as Tom has said, that if we have helped them, worked as a catalyst for them, then it may have helped them feel that they could do things sooner rather than later.